So in this episode, I have to get my climbing skills out to do a fire alarm install. I do a fire risk assessment at HMO. I get a new system that's got more faults and issues than it has things that are working. And I've got to try and figure out how to get over 300 fire extinguishers back to my yard. This is the Ampfire Vlog, episode 2. Boom, right then, here we are. So it's Monday morning. This is the follow on from the phone call I had, the awkward phone call, because we had the supplier that let us down. Short bank, they've been messed around by our suppliers. So we're here on site to fit this small alarm system now. Distribution boards there, we're going to be running mains power through there. This is like a little storage area, so basically we're going to have a smoke detector in there and we're going to have a smoke detector in here. Now this is a bigger building, which I'll try and show you in a minute. And the insurance company effectively said they want smoke detectors in here and here, but they haven't said anything about the rest of the building. So it's a bit of a tricky one because I think they may have done. But this is one of those old school customers where he's very sort of like keeps his card close to his chest, doesn't let anyone know anything. He didn't let me see the insurance report or anything they said. Now I will almost certainly guarantee that the insurance company will say something like that you need a fire alarm system rated to BS 5839-1. Which will probably mean he wants like at least call points everywhere, basic cover, but specifically detection in these two areas because they've recognised these as high risk areas. I think what the customers heard is I need smoke detectors in here. He just wanted smoke detectors. He'd actually this is a brand new customer. He's quite like a sort of high maintenance, sort of messy sort of environment. So his usual fire contractor that does these extinguishers and everything had quoted for it, and they just quoted for the whole building and they wouldn't do a breakdown. And I think what they were really doing is saying no, you need the whole building, and because they wouldn't listen to him, so what we did was we did in 3 options. We did in the options to do just this bit, option 2 to do this plus call points everywhere, and option 3 to do a proper cover fire alarm. He went for option 1, which was just this bit, but we made it very, very clear that we're not recommending that. And I've got a sneaky suspicion the insurance company will come back out and say, no, you need cover for the rest of it as well. At which point, this is why we've not just quoted for interlinked mains detectors, because A, they'll be useless, B, when we come to extend it, we'll have to rip that out and start again, whereas now we're going to put a main panel in, we're going to put mains power in, we're going to put detectors in, and that way then, when it comes to extend it, everything will be fine because we can just extend it off that system and go from there. So anyway, so we're going to run a cable in that way. We're going to put a detector in here. We're going to put a detector in here. So right there at the apex of that building. As you can see, years and years and years of just mess. So yeah, let's see how we get on. This just shows the reception area and this like little storage room behind it and where we're going to mount the panel and run the cables to. As you can see, it's quite a cluttered and messy environment, so there's a lot of climbing on top of racking and getting to the right position. Just quickly grab the SCS. I'm going to drill through this wall. This is going to be for the power and also for the cables coming back to the panel. Just going to try and drill a really tight space, so I found a piece of sheet of metal and I'm going to try and just get it in there, and then so stuffing gland into the DB. Now all the cables are in. I've got my spirit level out for the fuse spur. I'll be using that later for the panel. I'm also using a laser for clipping all the cables. Ideally, I'd much prefer to use conduit or trunking or something like that, but the client insisted absolute minimum cost, so we've just gone straight for clips. And obviously, even though everything else is quite messy in that environment, I'm going to make sure that the stuff I put in is absolutely bang on, all nice and level, all lasered up, ready to go. So I managed to make use of this electrical trunking that run around this workshop area and this storage area. Had a bit of space in it. I climbed up on top of all this timber and wood stuff to clip the detectors to the ceiling. A bit of a bugger going to these ceiling tiles. Luckily there was timbers above them that I managed to get some long screws into. Ideally, in hindsight, I probably should have used girder clips, but I just simply didn't have time. I didn't have any on the van, and we'd already doing this on a really tight budget. Then it was back to the main reception area to complete installing the panel. I added a sounder in reception so that obviously anybody in reception in those offices could hear if the fire alarm going off. Also in that storage area, I used sounder bases. This is a by-wire system, so I was able to use sounder bases. And there were sounder beacon bases, so they'll both sound and also flash a flashing light for a beacon. Unfortunately, I didn't film, I don't think, the completed panel, everything's set up. Must have got distracted, I think, when I was showing the customer just how to use the panel and what to do once it goes off and reset. But the panel was all working fine, everything was bang on, and yeah, job done. Boom, there we go. Right, so I didn't get a chance to just finish up the video. Technically, according to the regs, you could argue that the system is non-compliant in the sense that the minimum requirement for the system BS 5839 Part 1 is a category M, and a category M is manual call points in the correct positions. In that situation, those correct positions would be front door, there's a side door, there's a rear door in a mess area that we didn't see, and there's actually 2 rear door mess areas, but you'd have something in there. So potentially 4 call points. I think that's where the company that is currently supplying their fire extinguishers that quoted to do the fire alarm literally only quoted for a full system, because I think they were going, no, for it to be compliant. However, there is a category L5, which is a bit of basically a custom category. It wouldn't be suitable in that. I'm not suggesting that's an L5. What I've basically done is if I just go, no, you need this, he'll just keep going until he finds somebody that will give him what he wants. Eventually, he'll have just found a Sparky that will put a couple of interlinked smoke detectors up. Wasted all his money, and I strongly suspect the insurance assessor is going to come out and go, we need a better system than this. If he allows us to see the system, and I've seen this so many times, we get so many people say, I need smoke detectors, I need X, Y, and Z. And you go, okay, what you're telling me doesn't quite make sense. Can you give me the paperwork? Can you give me the email? Can you give me the information that's been given to you? Because somewhere along the lines, an assessor, an inspector would have given some sort of paperwork. And that paperwork will have on it the absolute specific information that somebody like me needs to see. So we'll say something like, it needs a fire alarm system to BS 5839-1 LD2, you know, something like that, whatever it might be. And that tells me what type of system it needs to be, what category of system it needs to be, what cover and everything. And from that, I can go, no. And usually then we can have a conversation with the customer and say, no, you've not been asked for smoke detectors. He's asked for this. And what's usually happened is, in these audits, that person's turned up, walked around a building, effectively, showed him a bunch of stuff, and the bit of information that he's retained is the bit where he says you need smoke detectors in here. And what's probably happened is he says you need a fire alarm system, and then he's gone specifically, you definitely need smoke detectors in here. So anyway, so what we've done is we've done exactly what the customer's asked. We've put a panel in, which is what we've done. He would have just wanted us to put a couple of smoke detectors in there with their mains linked. That's not suitable at all. So what we've done is we've put a panel in. So it's got a mains panel. It's got a couple of extra zones in that panel. So it's got 2 zones, which is more than enough to cover that building. We've put those detectors in the area, and we've put a sounder in the main room, and we've done all the stuff. If at any point now in the future, that auditor comes back and says, no, you need this, and I said that to him before he left, I said, look, I strongly suspect he's going to come back and say you need more. And he said, well, that's fine, we'll just do it then. And I said, cool, but what you've done is now you've got this panel. So he was quite happy, actually. He was like, okay, I get it. So that's why you've put the panel in, because then you can just add to the system. I was like, exactly, we can just add to it now. And he's like, right, got you. So I've got a fire alarm. So today I've got a fire alarm service to do. I've got a new customer to go to see, but the job I'm doing now, the fire alarm service and the emergency light service, the landlord's also asked me to go look in one of the tenants' houses, one of the tenants' flats, because they've got a couple of, I think they've got an extractor fan that needs changing. Not usually what we do, but sometimes with these landlords, because we're a contractor or on site, he's asked us to look at it. So we'll do that as well. So I'm not sure if we're going to film this. This might be a completely wasted intro, but who knows. Right, let's go on with it. So it's got a new light, couldn't get the extractor, there was some in stock, but I want to get an exact match. The extractor's working, it's got a crack in it, and that crack's kind of like, oh, sorry to come tools. That crack, it's just making a bit of a noise, so I personally, my van's a mess, because I literally chucked everything in last night, so I need to tidy my van up today, otherwise it will stress me out. Got the battery for the drill. So yeah, so the extractor's working fine, but just needs, oh, what did we do with it? Yeah, extractor's working fine, but just cracked. So I've ordered an exact light for light, that way then it fits exactly over the same patch and it just looks really neat and stuff like that. I could have got a different one and kind of made it fit, and then if it does, but then you need to redecorate and stuff like that. So the main thing is this dome light should fit. Looks like it's almost an exact copy. Looks very similar. It's not the same brand, but it is very similar. And I'm assuming I'm just going to line up the holes. There we go. Very good. Basically, this one has it's all knocked out, which is nice. That's a well thought of. This one you can do, but knockouts are there. So I'm going to screw this off and then marry it all up, just line it all up to make sure the holes are in the right place. And then I haven't got to drill any new holes, hopefully. They're needed, but it's the size I got, but a nice bigger hole gives us a bit of room to mess about. So now we've got that, which pretty much should line up identical, you see. Let's go in, let's get it done. Quickly do the fire alarm test on it. So just got to do the fire alarm test on this very quickly. Shouldn't take too long because we only installed the system about a year ago, 18 months ago. Right, put it into test mode. I'm gonna. Brilliant. Why is that not working? Core point not working straight away. That's not good. Let me just check. This was only installed 12 months ago. It's been working fine. We've had a 6-month test, so that's working. Looks like it's been knocked. Got an exposed wire, that wire's been nicked there. Fucking hell. Right, oh, it never amazes me, even though I know these people have been notified, just how like none of them seem to know what's going on. I know they've all, well, saying that, I don't know whether it's the landlords or the management systems or the letting agents, probably the letting agents if I'm honest. They just, yeah, they never seem to know we're coming. Knocking on doors then, nobody knows what I was there for. The people coming out saying, oh, the alarm's going off, what's going on? It's like, yeah, I'm testing it. And it was like that when we installed it about a year or so ago. It's really, yeah, just never seems to, I don't know why people don't get the message. We go to some places that are really good and they have like WhatsApp groups for all the tenants in the building, and then they send like emails out to everybody and they send messages out to everybody, they send letters out to everybody, And then they send like a text out that morning. Oh, by the way, just let you know, tomorrow, reminder again. And some places are really good. That said, when we installed that, we needed access to the full building and we had keys and everything. And we needed to make sure we got full access because obviously we've got to run cables in and there was obviously, we couldn't afford to be dicked about. We came down, me personally, and we printed out things and we posted a hand letter through every single thing saying notice, blah, blah, blah. We stuck it on every single door, like as you walk through all those doors, and we stuck it on the main door as you come in. And we still had so many people when we installed that alarm going, we didn't know that we were coming. I think the landlord owns, there's like 15 flats there, and the landlord owns like all but 1 or 2 of them. And there's a funny thing, if you're a property expert and you understand this, somebody explained this to me once, and I feel like I know it, but I've forgotten it or something. There is something with like a block. So the guy that owns all those flats also owns the freehold on the property, the ground rent. But there's like a thing, I'm sure it's to do with like the lease or something, where you own all but 1 of the flats. So somebody else will own, and it's kind of like, it's good practice or it's a legal thing that somebody else will own 1 of the flats. And in some cases, it's like a subsidiary of the same company owns it. But it like, you can't own the 100% of it for some reason. And I don't know what it is, or whether I'm conflating another issue with it. I don't know. Anyway, fire alarms tested, all fine, apart from that call point at the front door. It did look like it was like knocked a little bit. So, and I noticed the wire inside had been nicked. I don't know why it's not activating though. It's not giving me any sort of fault. There's no fault shown on the system. So we'll put that back as come back urgent, because that is your main entrance and exit in and out of the building. So that call point absolutely does need to be working. Other than that, everything else is fine. Need to come back and do that extractor fan. But now I've got to go over to Leicester and I think Wigston I've got to go to. Got a new customer, about 30 plus extinguishers. So let's go do that. Yes, where were we? Did that alarm service. We got a booking and do some stuff for that. Didn't film in the new place because it was a new customer and wasn't really much to film there. Wasn't particularly anything interesting. It's supposed to be 30 extinguishers, was only 18. They have, what was really interesting is they've got ADT in, which is a massive national company, and their fire alarm panel is completely locked into them, so we can't touch it. So ADT have got a contract with them. They're paying, I think he said £1,500 a year per panel, or it was £1,500 or £3,000 a year, but it's a lot of money. If you have £1,500 a year maintenance contract, and they don't do any maintenance for that, they don't do everything's an extra. So I would say we would service that whole system for probably under 200 quid a year, to give you an example. Probably a lot under 200 quid a year, I'd say, would be the basic service charge. And then there's a number of issues on there. They've got light beams in there that are failing, that, to be honest with you, they don't really need. But yeah, there's a number of issues with the panel. Panels are rubbish, just dog shit panels. The problem you've got though is for us to really take it over, for any other company to take it over apart from ADT, we need to strip the panels out and use our own kit. So that is the problem. And their lease is 5 years, and I think they're 2 years into it, so they don't know if they're going to be staying there. What they need to do is know they're going to be in somewhere for like 20 years for it to make it viable, basically. So it just isn't viable. So and they've had multiple people telling me this. They were like, yeah, you're not the first person to tell us this. I was like, yeah. So, but we took over the extinguishers. Extinguishers were all brand new in 2022. Nothing really there to shout home about. Very simple little warehouse that does clothing over in Leicester. So we're stressing out a lot at the minute. I don't know if other businesses are finding this, but we have a lot of problem with people paying. A lot of problems with people paying and getting people to pay on time. The country and the world just seems to be completely fucked at the minute, and nobody wants to pay. Not on time, at least, anyway. Everyone seems to be having the same problem. Everyone I speak to says they have the same problem with people not paying on time, with suppliers being shit, and this, that, or the other. It just seems to be a constant issue, and we're part of that problem as well, because we're now owed. We've had subcontractors do jobs for us, and we're owed money for those jobs, and we're in a situation now where we've got to try and negotiate with those contractors and ask some of them if they don't mind not being paid on time, which is a really shit one to do. We don't really, to be fair, but it's not massive. But yeah, we'll have to pay them in the next week. We should really. I'd like to have paid them the end of last month. They're not quite due yet, but I'd have preferred to got that all paid up at the end of November. As we're going into December, they start getting to Christmas and stuff. So it's just a bit wank at the minute. Just been speaking to a friend then. They're going through similar problems. Yeah, just the world is a bit nuts. So that is today. Not really sure what is going on this week. We've got a few jobs for us this week. We've got some HMOs tomorrow and a few other bits. So yeah, we shall catch you on the flip side. Let's see what tomorrow brings. Right, morning. Well, it's afternoon. Been a bit of a busy morning rushing around. So anyway, so I've got a bunch of HMOs now that I'm in that I've got to do fire alarm, emergency lights and stuff on. But this one I've got to do fire risk assessment. So the fire alarms on these are pretty straightforward. They're regularly maintained, so we're pretty much upon those. So there's nothing really much to show there. But I thought maybe the fire risk assessment might be interesting. So we're going to go around, do the risk assessment, and see if there's anything. I'll show you. All our risk assessments use an app called Riskbase. So I know this property quite well, so I already know it's got like alarms, emergency lights and stuff and things like that. But it's just worth just like you go through it methodically as you would anyway. And we're just going to check each room and just go through everything. So the first thing we do is just going through all the basics. We're just checking all the numbers, age of building, approximate floor space, how many floors, just going through all the fundamentals of the building. Looking how many exits it's got, so it's got 2 exits, and then as we're looking at the exits, I'm also looking at the exit itself. So for example, this has got a thumb turn lock, so it's easily accessible, so are the exits easily openable in the direction of travel and stuff like that. So we just kind of like doing all those fundamental bits, how many rooms it is, how many residents it is, you know, who's going to be here when, what sort of times, just getting all that information down, because that's what the risk assessment is, collecting all that, showing that we've thought about it, showing that we understand who uses the property and when they use the property and how they use the property and stuff like that. And that's the fundamentals. And then as we're doing that, we're also spotting other things, but then I'll go back round again and look at everything in more detail. So I've just set off the emergency lights, give them a flick. I can see that they've all come in here. The ones in here haven't been activated. So I'm just going to see if there's another switch for the kitchen, but it looks like all the emergency lights should be on the same circuit in there, so there's no evidence. I'm just trying to see. So I'm just going to investigate that a little bit further and see. I can't see a switch, but in here there's the boiler room, which we'll discuss some of the issues in it. There's a switch there. So I'm just going to look at that distribution board and see if I can see anything on there. So a couple of things now that probably wasn't as crucial when this was last licensed, sort of going back 5 years, but since then the 2021 Fire Safety Act's come out, which is a knock on a Grenfell attack, so there's a couple of little bits. That's not too bad. The ceiling rose has got a hole in it, and where these cables are going, let's see if we can get a bit closer picture where these cables are going, that needs some intermittent mastic and some sealing up there as well. That just needs tidying up. But the main thing is this door, unfortunately, isn't a fire door, and this would need to be a fire door. Needs to be a 60-minute door, I'd say, as well. You've got the boiler and stuff in here. Yeah, it needs to be a 60-minute door as well, with the boiler and stuff. So we're going to add that to the recommendations. It's just too thin. It needs to be obviously 3 hinges, intermittent strips around the outside. It doesn't need a self-closer because it's not going to be in use, but it would, because obviously it's locked. But it will need a sign on it that says fire door keep locked on it. But it just needs to be fire door. And also, there's a window at the back there, and I think we might have to fire protect that as well. So this one's actually empty, so it's just to give you an idea of the sort of property that is. Very simple. There's a little ensuite, The smoke detector in each property, probably a little bit too close to the wall, but not gonna sort of make a massive deal about it. Fire door, 60-minute fire door in each property. Yeah, so they do need a little bit of adjustment just when we kind of close them. They're not quite on the catch, so they do need a little bit of adjustment, so we'll just make a mention of that. But generally pretty good standard. You know, we're not talking about sort of shabby or dangerous sort of places. Everything on this report is going to be very much just like tiny little bits, just keeping things on top of things, just keeping on top of basic maintenance and stuff like that. So yeah, that gives you a rough idea of what we kind of do on a fire assessment. Gives you just a quick snapshot. There was a couple of items on there that probably didn't get on camera, but overall that place is pretty decent. We've got 2 more of those to do, so I won't bore you with those. But yeah, then it gets back to the yard and chase up some more of that money. We've still got people now. Got to head over to Leicester this morning to an estate agent's, letting agents, pick up a set of keys, go do an emergency light and fire alarm service. Most of them are rip out and start again jobs. They've got domestic smoke detectors in what would be classed as commercial buildings now. They're HMOs, house of multiple occupancies, and with the regulations and stuff, you know, 5 or more people, 3 floors or above, really you need a what's called part 1 commercial rated fire alarm. So I'm probably going to go to something like that, so we'll see about that. We're going to look at that in a minute. We've got a big client, and it's an extinguisher job, and a part of that extinguisher job was a removal of a surplus extinguishers. But before we could remove them, they had to put them around the building and decide what they were keeping and what they weren't, basically. Right, that was a bit of a drive. Just got to this letting agent, going to grab these keys, and I've got to get to the property and do this service. So yeah, let's grab them. So we've just arrived. I think there's a reason they've started using a proper fire company. So they've got a twin flex pro, not bad panels. A lot of people slag off these fire panels, but I don't like them. Always a bit interesting when we get a fire extinguisher company label. The British Crystal Fire Extinguisher Solutions. This label isn't even a compliant label for fire extinguishers, so yeah, bit dodge. Showing it's in fire. I'll have a quick look around in a minute. We'll have a quick look at the panel. The code for these is dead simple. So first things first, I'm just starting the emergency light test. It's only got one zone wide in, so everything in the entire building is on one zone. Not good, not good at all. We should really be looking at least 2 zones, really 3. Ground, a first floor and a second floor. So yeah, batteries both failed, or technically one of them is just about passable. I can't quite make out, they've put the stickers over the top of the serial numbers on the battery, so I can't see the actual manufacturer date. I don't trust the install date that this sticker's on here, because this one is almost dead, 0.4 amp hours, and then one's running just under 2 amp hours. They're 3.4s or 3.6s, I think they are. So 2 is just about passable, but really we're gonna have to swap out both if you're swapping the batteries out. It's just interesting that one has gone much quicker than the other. Grab the poles out of the van and just do the smoke test. It's still not a great system. It's not great installed correctly, and there's lots of problems with it. But at least it's the correct type of system in terms of it's an actual alarm panel. It's a part 1 system. It's got alarm panel and stuff like that. So let's see if we can go and test some smoke detectors. So I probably should have read what it said on the thing, because it does actually say zone 2. We've also got an end of line fault, so it's telling me that end of line is missing in zone 1, because there's only one zone. So with these fight panels, they don't have an end of line resistor, they have a little dual switch. So wherever that is, we're not going to investigate. This is just a service, so we've got batteries to do. We've got yes, we've got batteries to do. We've got a few things to highlight. That needs to be replaced for a fuse spur. Batteries need to be replaced. We couldn't get access to 2 of the rooms, and we need to sort out the fault, which is an end of line, so we need to go through and find out the end of line. I'm just going to let the emergency lights run a full test. So it's just been sitting around for a minute. Alarm system service has been done. Couldn't get access to 2 of the rooms. Like I was saying, the batteries need replacing. That fuse spur, in my opinion, isn't compliant. So the regulations state that the fuse spurs basically have to be switchable by like a key. I forget how it's worded now off the top of my head, but basically it means that the fuse spur can't be deactivated by use of a tool. And 2 things there: 1, those little fish keys, you could use a flathead screwdriver to flick it, and 2, it's probably not a fuse spur, it's just a switch. So that's non-compliant. Obviously all the zones are in zone 1, so it's got incorrect zonage in my opinion, and to cap it off as well, it's got a fault on zone 1, which is an end of line missing, which on those Fike systems, the end of line isn't a resistor, it's just a switch. So we just need to figure out where it finishes. Right, back alarm, emergency lights have been completed. I'm happy with those. I've done the cert for the fire alarm, and I've done the quote as well whilst I sat there waiting. So right, anyway, onwards, drop these keys off and onwards and upwards. Gonna go pick up these extinguishers. Right, back at base. What I've got to do is I've got to empty my van of toolboxes, ladders, and basically just maximise the space so I can get as many of these extinguishers in as possible. It's going to take at least a couple of runs, possibly 3, but let's rip all that out so we can make space and fill them up. The van unloaded, quick organisation of the unit, although I'm going to have to do a bit more when I get back. Heading over now to the customer, although I haven't heard anything from them, and I told them I was coming today, so I'm hoping that everything's available. Hey buddy, got to go to maintenance 158, is it? Andy from AMP Fire. So I arrived, go to the loading bay that we usually have to go to. There's no extinguishers waiting, but they could just need to bring them out. I've just tried ringing the contact numbers and it's both saying they're busy.
The mobile number you've called is currently unavailable.
Right, that is a full load. Van is now considerably heavier. Yeah, so I reckon it's going to take about 4 runs in total, I reckon. That one load done. I'm trying to work out, it's pretty like an hour round trip, 2:30. 3:30. Oh, we're going to get this done today. The van's suddenly got heavier. So this is the plan of action. That's half of it done. I reckon we're about 50%. We've certainly got the heavier load. The 5k CO2s, they're a little bit lighter per unit and they're a little bit thinner. So the plan is I'm going to do them tomorrow, which is Friday, tomorrow afternoon. because these guys are here till 2 o'clock in the morning, so it doesn't really make a difference to them.